rests exposed as the water pulls away. Wooden planks stretch farther than usual. The ferry ramp hangs lower toward the mud. Nothing here is waiting to move. The place feels paused rather than empty. The words do not need attention. They can remain like distant harbor sounds that no longer reach the shore. The ferry sits tied to its lines. Hall lights reflect faintly on wet ground. No waves reach the edge of the dock. The water has withdrawn, leaving silence behind. Ropes lie slack against the posts, their fibers darkened by moisture. No tension runs through them. The vessel stays where it is, supported by stillness. Along the dock, lamps glow unevenly, some brighter, some dimmer, all steady. Their reflections break on the mud, then disappear completely. The air smells of salt and wood, not sharp, not strong, just present enough to notice, then forget again. Time begins to stretch differently here, not forward, not backward. It spreads outward, thin and quiet, across the exposed ground. The ferry's windows remain dark. No movement inside. No sound carries from the deck. The interior feels distant, sealed away from the night. Footsteps would echo here, but none arrive. The dock holds only its own weight. Planks remain firm, unchanged by absence. A faint creak passes through the hull. Not a signal, just settling. Then nothing follows. Below the dock, shallow water rests, barely moving, barely visible. The tide has reached its lowest point and stays there, without instruction. Lights along the shoreline remain fixed. Warehouses sit back from the edge, doors closed, yards empty. The harbor feels complete in rest. Time loosens further. Moments do not connect. They sit apart, quiet and unrelated. No sequence forms. The ferry does not prepare to depart. It does not prepare to rest. It simply remains, neutral, balanced. A distant buoy light blinks once, then again, then holds. It marks position, not progress. The dock does not react to it. The ferry does not answer. The water stays withdrawn. Everything holds its place. The mud beneath the dock reflects no light. Its surface absorbs everything: sound, motion, attention. The ground feels settled, finished. The ropes continue to rest against the posts. No pull returns to them. No current tightens their line. They remain where they fell. Air moves slowly across the harbor. Not enough to stir the water. Not enough to lift a sound. The night feels thick and calm. Time spreads evenly again. Minutes lose their edges. Nothing presses forward. The pause feels sufficient. The ferry's outline softens in the low light. Edges blur. Details fade. The the vessel feels more shape than object. No horn sounds, no signal changes, no crew returns. The dock remains unclaimed by action. Lights continue to glow. Water continues to rest. The tide does not turn yet. Everything waits without waiting. The harbor holds its breath. The ferry holds its lines. The dock holds its length. Each part aligned, quiet and undisturbed, as the night remains low and still. There is no ending here, no cue, no transition. Only the dock, the ferry, and the withdrawn water, remaining exactly as they are until the tide decides otherwise. The dock remains exposed as the water stays away. Nothing pulls it back. Nothing urges it forward. The shoreline holds its shape. The stillness feels intentional, as if the night chose this moment to pause everything at once. The ferry's hull settles slightly, not from movement, from weight redistributing itself. The sound is brief, then gone. Along the dock, the lamps continue their uneven glow. Light gathers in small pockets, then fades into shadow between the planks. The pattern feels irregular, but familiar. Moisture clings to the wood. Darkened grain shows where water once reached. The surface feels cool and solid. Nothing dries, nothing shifts. Time loosens again, not stretching forward, not pulling back. It spreads thinly across the harbor, quiet and unmeasured. A rope creaks softly against a post, not from tension, from rest. Then it settles again, exactly where it was. Beyond the dock, the harbor opens wide. Water remains shallow, barely moving. The tide holds its lowest point without instruction. Warehouses along the edge stay dark. Windows reflect nothing. Doors remain sealed. No activity returns to them. The ferry does not anticipate departure. No engine hum begins. No light changes tone. The vessel feels complete in stillness. Mud beneath the dock absorbs everything. Light disappears into it. Sound does the same. The ground feels final, uninterested in change. Time stops suggesting sequence. Moments do not follow one another. They exist separately, quiet and complete. No order forms. A distant buoy light blinks again, slow, measured. It marks location, not intention. The dock does not respond. The ferry does not answer. The water remains withdrawn. Nothing acknowledges the signal. Air moves across the harbor, not enough to ripple the surface, not enough to carry sound. The night feels dense and calm. Edges soften further. The ferry becomes silhouette. The dock becomes outline. Details fade without disappearing. No footsteps arrive. No voice carries. No sound breaks the balance. The space remains unclaimed. Time spreads evenly once more. Minutes lose weight. Nothing presses forward. The pause feels sufficient. The ropes stay slack. The lamps stay lit. The water stays low, each part holding its position without effort, without demand. There is no sense of nearing change, no hint of returning tide, no signal forming. The harbor feels settled exactly as it is. The dock remains exposed. The ferry remains still. The night remains wide. Everything aligned, quiet, and undisturbed as the low tide continues to hold the shoreline in place. The harbor continues to hold its quiet shape. No sound travels far. No movement returns. The space remains open and still. The ferry's lines rest loosely against the posts. They do not tighten, they do not slip. Their weight feels settled, unconcerned with change. Along the dock, light reflects unevenly. Some planks shine briefly, others remain dark. The pattern never repeats exactly, yet nothing feels new. A faint scent of seaweed lingers in the air. Not strong, not sharp. It drifts for a moment, then disappears again. Time loosens further. Moments stop leaning forward. They rest where they land. No direction forms. The water remains shallow near the edge. Its surface barely shifts. No ripple completes itself. The tide holds its position without signal. Farther out, the harbor opens into darkness. No lights answer from the distance. No outline sharpens. The horizon stays soft and undefined. The ferry does not adjust. No engine warms. No interior light appears. The vessel remains present, but inactive. A soft creak passes through the dock. Wood settling. Nothing more. The sound fades as quickly as it arrived. Air moves gently across the surface. Not enough to cool, not enough to carry sound. The night feels thick and calm. Time spreads evenly again. Minutes lose their edges. Nothing presses for attention. The pause feels complete. The ropes continue to rest. The lamps continue to glow. The water continues to wait. Each part holding its place, quiet and undisturbed, as the harbor remains paused at the lowest point of the tide. The harbor holds its position without effort. Nothing signals the return of water. Nothing suggests departure. The shoreline remains exactly where it settled. Light continues to rest along the dock. Reflections form briefly, then fade into the exposed ground. No surface keeps them for long. The ferry stays connected to the posts. Lines remain loose. No tension returns to them. The vessel feels anchored by stillness, not by force. Time no longer feels divided. Moments rest quietly beside one another. No sequence forms. The pause feels complete.